Hi there. Here we go with a review of the Blackburn Atom SL6. Kick off with unboxing the unit. The kit comes with everything you need, so under the first Perspex cover you've got the head unit. It comes with a little plastic cover on the screen, obviously to stop it getting scratched, and you can see the slots in the back where it fits into the mount on the bike. Underneath you've got an instruction manual. You get a unit here. This one is the, that one's the speed unit. So there's two receiver units. The other receiver unit is the cadence one. And then you've got quite a neat handlebar mount. And this one, if you can see in the video, can be mounted either across the stem, or if you use the strap the other way, it can be mounted onto the bar. So you can fit this unit either way. It's got a simple quick release clip, and on the back here is a good sort of crucifix shape rubber mount, so it shouldn't slip around on the bar or stem. The other things in the box are some cable ties and the magnets for the crank and for the spoke for the two sensors, and then the last thing is quite a good velcro strap that will mount the unit onto the bars or stem, and it's got a non-slip rubber surface on one side of it just to make sure that it doesn't move around. So that's pretty much all that is in the box of the unit. Okay, moving on to the installation. Blackburn make it fairly straightforward. So we looked at the sensors earlier, but you've basically got a speed receiver which mounts onto the chainstay, and you've got a speed magnet, kind of funky Blackburn shaped logo magnet, which basically unscrews and clips onto the spoke. And then on the other side, from cadence point of view, you've got the cadence sensor, again that goes on the back chainstay. You can see the cadence sensor and the speed sensor on one side have got some markings there, so at the top that says sensor, so basically that's the side that faces the sensor. And then there's a cadence magnet as well, and that's flat. It's easy to tell apart from the speed sensor because it actually says, if we can get it the right way up, cadence. So that's the two sensors and the two magnets. Also included in the kit are a bunch of cable ties, and these basically attach the two receivers and the cadence sensor to the bike. So that's pretty much it. So next we're going to move to installing these onto the bike. So for the install, I guess you could use a work stand, but to be honest it's probably just as easy to turn the bike upside down, because both of the receivers are supposed to mount to the underside of the chainstay. So you can see here is, for those who are not bike geeks, this is my Trek Madone 2.1. I'm going to show you how to fit the sensor onto the spokes. Pretty simple. So they all need to mount onto the opposite side to the chain set. Basically, if you look at the spoke, the sensor's got a slot in it. Slots quite simply onto the spoke. It's got a magnet in it which makes it a little bit footery to fit, but should go on. There we go. And then you want this side of the sensor to face towards a receiver, and on the other side we basically fit the lock. And that's okay. So we've installed the spoke magnet, and what I've also done is loosely fit the receiver, the speed receiver, to the rear chainstay. And you can see the zip ties are there. They've still got the long ends, but the chainstay receiver is nice and loose. So basically, let's just position it and just check how it's doing in terms of transmitting from the magnet. So the magnet will come up in a second, and there it is on the spoke. So what they advise is you need about 3mm clearance between the magnet and the receiver, and that's quite easy to achieve. And the other thing that's useful, particularly for wireless units, if you're careful, what you can do is you can mount the head unit temporarily on the chainstay. So while you're setting up the unit, you can see, without mucking about too much, whether or not you've got the alignment right. So at the moment, we spin the wheel, and you can see the cat as well, just trying to help out. We're getting a speed, that's probably about my typical average speed, about 3.3k. Spin it a bit faster and just make sure that it is picking it up. Yeah, there we go. So 6.8, 6.3. So basically, that is working fine. You can fine tune it, but basically when you've got it in the right position, you want to snug down the cable ties on the unit and snip off the excess zip ties, and that's you pretty much done. For the cadence sensor that goes on, I'll show you in a second, but it's pretty much the same approach just to get that working. The one big benefit when you've got these sort of units where they've got a separate cadence sensor and speed sensor is you can see on my Trek here there's a big bend in the chainstay. And that's obviously to make sure that the bottom bracket stays nice and stiff and you get good pedalling power. But if you've got one of these units that's got a combined speed and cadence sensor for the rear chainstay, it's actually quite difficult to get it set up. So although you get 2 units on the chainstay, the benefit is you get much better alignment of the sensors and much better readout to your unit. So that's the speed sensor pretty much set up, and next we'll look at the cadence sensor. Okay, so next up to install are the 2 cadence sensor parts. So you can probably just see the main receiver there on the chainstay. I know it's a black receiver on a black chainstay, but you can probably just about see it. And also you can see the cable ties there, basically clipping the magnet on, and that's onto the crank. And you can see in the back of the crank, probably, maybe you can't, this Shimano 105 unit's kind of hollowed out in the back, so you have to have a look and see where the magnet's going to best fit. But basically, cable tie both pieces loosely in place. Same technique that we used, so the head unit is still in the chainstay just to make setting up nice and easy. And you can see on the head unit, if I just pedal backwards, start to get a reading, hopefully, on the cadence. Not quite there, so let's just do a little adjust. Maybe it's just gone into sleep mode. Let's try again. Yeah, so that's all that's happened. So basically the cadence is reading out, you can see at the bottom of the display, and it had just gone into sleep mode. So that's you've now got, if I turn it the right way, speed and cadence working. So just cadence about 40, maybe not what you'd hope for, 56, speed 20k. So basically that's you sort of set up. You've got your speed and cadence sensors all installed. Clearly the head unit needs to be moved up, and we'll clip off the cables for the cadence sensors once we've snugged them up, but that's pretty much the install. So flip the bike over just a sec. Okay, we looked at the bracket that mounts the head unit earlier, but basically you can set it here on the stem and it'll sit there quite nicely, goes on with the strap. Or depending on your setup, what you're doing with tri-bars and other things, you can set it up on the bar there as well as the stem, and it can obviously go on either side of the bar. But basically I'm going to fit it onto the stem, fit the head unit, and then that's us good to go. Okay, so let's set the head unit into the bracket. Sits in nice and easily, pretty easy to install, nice and solid, won't move much side to side, and that's the head unit fitted. Gives you pretty much all the information you would want for a ride. So you've got distance, cadence, how much you've climbed, because obviously there's an altimeter in there. You've got lots of typical functions. You've got current speed, average speed, max speed, you've got temperature, altitude, you've got a whole host of functions. So the Blackburn Atom SL6 gives you a whole bunch of information. It's a pretty modest price in the UK. On a lot of websites, retails for between about £65 and £70. I bought this from Evans Cycles and got a really good deal on it. And all in all, seems excellent. I use a separate heart rate monitor, so I wasn't looking for a heart rate function. But as I said, the Blackburn Atom SL6, good value bike computer, pretty easy to install, and gives you pretty much everything you can need. So I hope you've enjoyed the review. Bye for now.